The blessed silver felt warm against my palm as I loaded the last bullet into the chamber. Father Benedetto had been very clear about the ammunition this time. 3 shots maximum. 1 for the heart, 1 for the head, 1 for insurance. The target lived in apartment 4B of a crumbling brownstone in Brooklyn. Lucia Toretti, age 34, elementary school teacher by day. By night, she had been feeding neighborhood children to something that lived in her basement. The Vatican's investigation team had found 7 sets of small bones arranged in careful patterns beneath her floorboards. I checked my watch. 11:47 p.m. The ritual had to be complete before dawn, which gave me exactly 6 hours and 13 minutes. Rule number 3 was non-negotiable. I had learned that the hard way in Prague. My name is Marco Santangelo, and I have worked for the Vatican's Department of Sacred Mysteries for 8 years. Most people think we handle old manuscripts and religious artifacts. They are not entirely wrong. We do preserve certain items that the world is better off not knowing about. But our real job is cleanup. When regular priests cannot handle a situation, they call us. When police find crime scenes that make seasoned detectives quit their jobs, we get the phone call. When children start speaking in languages that died out before Christ was born, our number appears in Cardinal Toretti's personal contacts. Yes, Toretti. Same last name as tonight's target. The Cardinal's younger sister had fallen quite far from grace. I climbed the fire escape to the 3rd floor. The building smelled like boiled cabbage in desperation. Paint peeled from the walls in long strips that reminded me of shed skin. Through thin walls, I could hear televisions playing late-night talk shows and a baby crying somewhere on the 2nd floor. Lucia's apartment was quiet. I had been tracking her for 3 weeks. The pattern was always the same. Tuesday and Friday nights, between midnight and 3 a.m., children would disappear from their beds. No signs of struggle, no broken windows or forced doors. The kids simply vanished from locked rooms while their parents slept deeply in the next room. The first family blamed sleepwalking. The second family called the police. By the 4th disappearance, the local parish priest contacted the Vatican. Father Kellner had done his homework. He found the connection between all the missing children. They had all been in Miss Toretti's 3rd grade class. I picked the lock on her fire escape window. The metal was old and gave way easily. Rule number 4 meant she could never see my face, so I pulled the black ski mask down over my features. The fabric scratched against the small scar on my chin. A souvenir from my first assignment in Romania. Inside, the apartment looked normal. Too normal. Clean dishes in the sink. A half-finished crossword puzzle on the kitchen table. Family photos lined the mantelpiece, showing a younger Lucia with what appeared to be nieces and nephews. Happy children with bright smiles. I knew better than to trust appearances. The blessing on my bullets made them warm to the touch, but the rest of the apartment felt cold. Not the normal cold of October in New York. This was different, the kind of cold that came from places where warmth had been deliberately removed. I moved through the living room toward the hallway. My boots made no sound on the hardwood floors. 8 years of this work had taught me how to walk like a ghost. Rule number 5 required absolute silence until the moment of confrontation. Wait, I had only mentioned 4 rules. Let me clarify the complete set, as they were explained to me during my training at the Vatican. Rule 1. Never kill on consecrated ground. The holy places must remain pure. Rule 2. Use only blessed weapons. Regular bullets bounce off most of what we hunt. Rule 3. Complete the ritual within 24 hours of first contact. After that, they grow stronger. Rule 4. Never let them see your face. Once they know who you are, they can find you anywhere. Rule 5. Burn the body completely. Cremation is not enough. Even ashes can be used against you. These rules had kept me alive through encounters that killed other agents. I had seen good men break Rule 4 and spend their final hours screaming as things that should not exist crawled through their dreams. I had watched Rule 5 violations result in the target returning weeks later, angrier and more dangerous than before. The hallway stretched longer than it should have given the apartment's exterior dimensions. I counted my steps. 12 paces to reach a door that should have taken 6. The walls here were covered in children's drawings, crayon sketches of stick figure families, a house with a smiling sun overhead, a dog with floppy ears. At the end of the hall, I found the basement door. It stood slightly open. Warm air drifted up from below, carrying the smell of vanilla candles and something else. Something sweet and rotten at the same time, like fruit left too long in the summer heat. I descended the wooden stairs. Each step creaked despite my careful weight distribution. The basement was larger than the apartment above, much larger. The walls extended beyond where the building's foundation should have ended. Lucia Toretti knelt in the center of the room. She wore a simple white nightgown and had her back to me. Her dark hair hung loose around her shoulders. She appeared to be praying. Around her, 7 small shapes lay arranged in a perfect circle. They were covered with white sheets, but I could see the outline of tiny hands and feet. The missing children. "You are earlier than expected," she said without turning around. Her voice sounded like the teacher she was during the day, patient and kind. "But not unwelcome. I have been waiting for someone like you." I raised the gun. The blessed silver felt hot now, almost burning my palm. "Miss Toretti, by order of the Vatican's Department of Sacred Mysteries, you are charged with crimes against the innocent. The penalty is death." She laughed, not the crazed cackle of a madwoman, but genuine amusement. "The Vatican sent only one man? How flattering. They must think very highly of my work." Turn around slowly. "I think not. You see, your rules don't apply here. This place exists between spaces. Your blessed bullets will work just fine, but your time limit?" She glanced at a clock on the wall. "Well, time moves differently in my little sanctuary." The clock read 2:30 a.m. That was impossible. I had entered the building at 11:47 p.m. and spent no more than 20 minutes getting to the basement. Unless... "Rule 3 is about dawn, not time," I said. "Sunrise, not the clock." "Very good. Someone trained you well, but you missed something important about Rule 4. I kept the gun trained on her back. Rule 4 is about you seeing my face." "Exactly. But what if I already know who you are?" She finally turned around. Lucia Toretti had my mother's face. Not similar features, not a family resemblance. My mother's exact face, down to the small mole beside her left eye and the way her lips curved when she smiled. My mother, who had been dead for 12 years. "Hello, Marco," she said with my mother's voice. "I have been looking forward to meeting you." My hand shook. The gun wavered. This was not possible. My mother had died in a car accident when I was 22. I had been at her funeral. I had watched them lower her casket into the ground. "You are not her," I said. "No," she agreed. "But I know her. I know everything about her. The way she sang while making dinner. How she worried about you when you started this job. The promise she made to St. Anthony to keep you safe." "Stop. She visits me, you know, in dreams. She tells me about her son who kills monsters for God. She is very proud of you." I pulled the trigger. The bullet caught her in the chest, spinning her around. Black liquid sprayed from the wound instead of blood. She fell backward but was already laughing before she hit the ground. "Rule 2 works perfectly," she said, sitting up. The hole in her chest was closing. But blessed weapons only kill what is already alive. I fired again. Headshot. Her skull cracked like an egg, and more black liquid poured out. She kept talking. "I died 3 months ago, Marco. Lung cancer. Very sad. But the thing that lives in this basement offered me a deal. My life for theirs." She gestured to the children around her. I only needed 7 little souls to feed it. Then I could live forever. I had 1 bullet left. Rule 3 was still in effect, which meant she could still be killed. But I was running out of options. "The thing in the basement," I said. "Where is it?" "You are standing in it." The floor beneath my feet was not wood. It was flesh. Pale, smooth flesh that pulsed with a slow heartbeat. The walls were not drywall. They were skin stretched over massive ribs that expanded and contracted with breath. I was inside something alive. "Welcome to the belly of the beast," Lucia said. "It has been hungry for so long. 7 children barely counted as appetizers." The children under the sheets began to move. Small hands pushed away the white fabric. 7 pairs of eyes opened and looked at me. But they were not the children anymore. They were something else wearing children's faces. "Feed him to us," they said in unison. Their voices harmonized in a way that human voices could not. "Feed him to us, and we will let you keep Mama's face forever." I understood then. Lucia Toretti was dead. The thing wearing her body was something else entirely. Something that could take any face, any voice, any memory it wanted. It had chosen my mother's appearance because it knew that would hurt me the most. Rule 4 had been broken the moment I saw my mother's face. It knew who I was now. Even if I killed this body, it would remember. It would hunt me. But Rule 5 might still work. I reached into my jacket for the white phosphorus grenade, standard equipment for every agent. When blessed bullets were not enough, fire was the answer. White phosphorus burned hot enough to reduce bones to ash, hot enough to destroy even supernatural tissue. "You cannot burn what is already inside you," Not Lucia said. "The moment you stepped onto this floor, you became part of it. Part of us." She was right. I could feel it now. The flesh beneath my feet was growing up around my boots. Thin tendrils of skin were wrapping around my ankles. In a few minutes, I would be absorbed completely, but I still had one option left. I pulled the pin from the grenade and held it tight. White phosphorus would kill me too, but it would also destroy everything in this room. The children, the creature, Lucia's stolen body, all of it would burn. "You cannot," she said, still wearing my mother's face. "Your mother would not want you to die like this. My mother would want me to finish the job." I released the handle. The grenade would explode in 4 seconds. Enough time to say a prayer. Enough time to hope that God would forgive me for breaking Rule 5 by destroying myself along with the target. But as the metal spoon flew away and the fuse began to burn, something unexpected happened. The children stood up. All 7 of them moved in perfect synchronization. They stepped forward and placed their small hands on my arms, my shoulders, my chest. Their touch was warm, human, real. "Thank you," they whispered. And for the first time since I had entered this place, their voices sounded like actual children. The grenade exploded. White fire filled the room. The creature that wore Lucia's face screamed as the phosphorus ate through its stolen flesh. The walls of skin began to burn and peel away, revealing the normal basement underneath. The thing that had been masquerading as my mother melted like wax, its true form finally visible in the flames. It looked like hunger given shape, like need with teeth. But the children were gone, not burned, not destroyed, simply gone. I realized they had been trapped here, held by the creature as batteries for its power. When it died, they were finally free to move on. I should have died too. White phosphorus burns everything it touches. But somehow, I was standing in the center of the inferno without a scratch. The children's final gift, perhaps, or divine intervention. In this job, the distinction was often meaningless. The fire department would find the basement in the morning. They would discover the remains of Lucia Toretti and file a report about a gas explosion. The families of the missing children would never learn what really happened to their sons and daughters. That was probably for the best. I climbed out of the burning building and walked back to my car. Rule 3 had been satisfied. The ritual was complete. The creature was dead. But as I drove away, I could not shake the feeling that something had changed. The way the children had protected me from the blast, the way they had called me by name. That was not normal. In 8 years of this work, the victims had never helped me before. My phone rang. Unknown number. Marco Santangelo, I answered. Agent Santangelo, this is Cardinal Toretti. I need to see you immediately. There has been a development. The target is eliminated, Your Eminence. The situation is resolved. No, he said quietly. I am afraid it is not. Come to the cathedral. Bring your equipment. We have 7 new cases. The line went dead. I looked at the clock on my dashboard. 3:33 a.m. Still 3 hours until dawn. Plenty of time for another assignment. As I drove through the empty streets of Brooklyn toward Manhattan, I thought about the children who had saved my life, about the way they had smiled before disappearing, about the warmth of their touch in that place of cold hunger. For the first time in 8 years, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, some of the things we hunted were not as evil as we believed, and some of the things we saved were not as innocent as they seemed. The cathedral loomed ahead, its Gothic spires cutting black shapes against the orange glow of the city sky. Cardinal Toretti would be waiting with details about 7 new targets, 7 new creatures that needed to be stopped. I parked outside and checked my ammunition. 3 blessed bullets left. Not many, but enough to get started. The Vatican's armory was in the basement of the cathedral. I could resupply there. As I walked up the stone steps to the entrance, I noticed something odd. Fresh flowers had been placed beside each of the cathedral's 7 doors. Small bouquets of white lilies tied with children's hair ribbons. The same flowers that had been scattered around the missing children's bedrooms. I stopped walking. Rule 4 had been broken. The creature knew who I was, but the creature was dead. I had watched it burn, unless it was not really dead. Unless burning the body was not enough when the creature existed in multiple places at once. Unless what I had killed in the basement was just one small part of something much larger. The cathedral doors swung open before I could knock. Cardinal Toretti stood in the doorway. He looked exactly like his sister Lucia, but older, male, wearing priestly robes instead of a white nightgown. "Hello, Marco," he said with my mother's voice. "Thank you for coming so quickly. We have so much work to do." Behind him, in the shadows of the cathedral, I could see 7 small shapes, children, standing perfectly still, waiting. They all had the same face. My face. 7 versions of myself as a child, wearing different clothes, but identical expressions. Patient, hungry, ready to be fed. "Come in," Cardinal Toretti said. "Your mother is waiting inside. She has missed you terribly." I reached for my gun, but my hand was shaking too badly to draw it. Rule 4 was not just broken, it was completely shattered. The thing knew everything about me now. My face, my name, my history, my fears. And it was wearing the authority of the Vatican itself. "There is no need for weapons here," the Cardinal said. "This is consecrated ground. Rule 1, remember? You cannot kill on holy ground." He was right. Even if I could draw my gun, I could not use it here. The cathedral was blessed, protected, sacred. I was trapped. The 7 children who wore my face smiled in unison. Behind them, deeper in the cathedral, I could see more shapes moving. Adults this time. All wearing faces I recognized. My father, my grandmother, my training partner from Vatican City, who had died in Prague. All the people I had loved, all the people I had lost, all of them waiting to welcome me home. I backed away from the cathedral doors. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to move. Rule 1 protected the creature inside, but it also protected me. As long as I stayed outside, it could not attack me directly. "Where are you going, Marco?" Cardinal Toretti called from the doorway. "Your family is waiting. We have prepared such a wonderful reunion." The 7 children with my face stepped into view behind him. They looked exactly as I had at age 8, gap-toothed smiles, messy brown hair, the same small scar on the chin from falling off my bicycle. But their eyes were wrong, too bright, too aware. They stared at me with the patience of something that had been alive for centuries. "We know you are tired," they said together. "We know you want to rest. Come inside and you can sleep forever." I reached for my phone to call for backup, but the screen was dead. Not broken, not out of battery. Just blank, as if it had never worked at all. "There is no one to call," the Cardinal said. "The Department of Sacred Mysteries knows you are here. They sent you to us after all. This was always the plan." "You are lying." "Am I? Think about it, Marco. 7 missing children. 7 families that never reported the disappearances to the police. 7 parents who went to sleep and never woke up to check on their sons and daughters." My blood turned to ice water. He was right. I had been so focused on tracking Lucia that I had never questioned why the families were not more frantic, why there were no search parties, why the police had only been called once. "The families are dead," I said. "Very good. Yes, they have been feeding us for months. Lucia was just the appetizer. The real feast was always meant to be you." I started walking backward down the cathedral steps. My hands shook as I checked my remaining ammunition. 3 blessed bullets. Enough to kill 3 targets, but I was looking at 8. And that was only counting the ones I could see. "You cannot run forever," Cardinal Toretti said. "We know where you live. We know where you work. We know every person you have ever cared about." "Rule 4, I said. "You cannot hunt me. You have already seen my face." The Cardinal smiled with teeth that were too sharp. "Rule 4 was written by humans. We are not bound by human rules." Behind him, the children began to giggle. The sound echoed strangely off the cathedral walls, multiplying until it sounded like 100 children laughing at once. "Besides," the Cardinal continued, "Rule 4 says, we cannot hunt you after seeing your face. But what if we have always known your face? What if we have been watching you since birth?" More shapes moved in the cathedral entrance. My parents stepped into view, then my grandparents, then teachers from my childhood, friends from school. Every person who had ever mattered to me, all of them wearing perfect copies of faces I remembered, all of them smiling with hunger. "We have been collecting them for years," the Cardinal explained. "Every time someone you loved died, we took their appearance, their voices, their memories. We built a family just for you." I reached the bottom of the cathedral steps and kept backing away. The street was empty. No cars, no pedestrians. Even the streetlights seemed dimmer than usual. The entire block, I realized. You control the entire block. Much more than that. This is New York, Marco. 8 million people. 8 million faces we can borrow. 8 million voices we can use to call your name. As if on cue, windows began opening in the buildings around me. Faces appeared in every opening. Men, women, children, elderly people. All looking down at me, all smiling the same hungry smile. "Marco," they called in unison. "Come home, Marco. Come inside where it is warm." I turned and ran. The street stretched longer with each step. What should have been a 2-block run to my car became 4 blocks, then 6, then 10. The buildings on either side grew taller, leaning inward until they almost touched overhead. But I kept running. Rule 3 was still in effect. Dawn was coming, and when the sun rose, whatever power they had would weaken. I had learned that much in Prague. My phone buzzed. Somehow, it was working again. Text message from an unknown number. Rule 3 does not apply when you are already inside the belly of the beast. I looked around. The street was not a street anymore. The asphalt beneath my feet was pale and soft. The buildings were not buildings. They were massive ribs, curving up and over to form a tunnel of bone and flesh. I had never left the creature from the basement. The explosion had been an illusion. Lucia's death had been a trick. I was still trapped inside the thing that fed on children. "No," I said aloud. "No, that is not possible." I felt the heat from the phosphorus. I smelled the smoke. Another text. "You felt what we wanted you to feel, saw what we wanted you to see. The children you thought you saved, they are still here, still feeding us." Ahead of me, the tunnel ended in a massive chamber. The 7 missing children sat in a circle in the center of the room. They were not moving, not breathing. Their eyes were open, but they stared at nothing. Tubes ran from their mouths to the walls, carrying some kind of fluid, their life force, being slowly drained to feed the creature. "Finally," said a voice behind me, "you understand." I turned. Cardinal Toretti stood at the tunnel entrance, but he was not wearing the cardinal's face anymore. He looked like me, exactly like me, but older, what I might look like in 20 years. "This is what we really are," he said. "Not demons, not monsters, just hunger wearing whatever shape serves us best." "The Vatican," I said. "The Department of Sacred Mysteries. All of it was fake." "No, the Vatican is real. The department is real. But we have been feeding on it for centuries. Every agent they send us becomes part of our collection. Every priest who investigates us joins our family." He gestured to the walls around us. They were covered in photographs, hundreds of them. Men and women in Vatican uniforms, priests, agents, all smiling the same empty smile. "You are just the latest addition to our gallery." I raised my gun. 3 bullets left. One for him, one for myself, one in case I missed. "Blessed silver will not work here," he said. "This place exists between holy and unholy, between life and death. Your weapons have no power." I fired anyway. The bullet passed right through him. He was not solid, just an illusion projected by the creature. "Rule 2 requires a target that can be killed," he said. "We died long ago. What you see is just memory wearing flesh." 2 bullets left. "But the children," I said. "They are still alive. I can save them." "Can you?" "Look closer." I approached the circle of children. Up close, I could see the truth. They were not breathing because they no longer needed to breathe. Their hearts were not beating because the creature's heart was beating for them. They were not really alive anymore. But they were not dead either. They existed in the space between, feeding the creature with their dreams and fears and hopes. "This is what we offer," the older version of myself said. "Eternal life. No more rules to follow. No more targets to kill. No more sleepless nights wondering if you are doing God's work or the devil's. I would rather die. That is not one of your options." The tubes that fed on the children began to move toward me. Pale, fleshy tentacles that ended in needle-sharp points. They would pierce my skin and begin the slow process of draining my life away. I had 2 bullets left, but nowhere to shoot. The creature was all around me. I was inside its body, surrounded by its tissue, breathing its air. But I still had the white phosphorus grenade. I reached for it, then stopped. In the basement, the children had protected me from the blast. But these children were not the same. They were already part of the creature. If I used the grenade here, I would kill them along with myself. "You see the problem," the older me said. "Save yourself and murder 7 innocent children. Or sacrifice yourself and let us continue feeding on others." It was not a choice. It was a trap designed to break my will. But there was a third option. I remembered something from my training. Father Kellner had told me about agents who faced impossible situations. When all 5 rules were broken and death was certain, there was still one final technique. Confession. "I confess," I said aloud. The creature laughed through the mouth of my older self. "Confess to what? There is no priest here to absolve you. I confess to failing these children, to letting them be taken, to not saving them in time. Guilt will not help you now. I confess to breaking Rule 4, to letting you see my face, to putting others in danger because of my mistakes." The laughter stopped. "I confess to the sin of pride, for thinking I could hunt monsters without becoming one myself." The tubes froze in midair. Something was happening. The creature was listening. "And I confess to the sin of doubt, for questioning whether God exists in places like this." Light began to filter through the walls. Not electric light, not the orange glow of street lamps. Clean, white light that came from no visible source. "You cannot," the older me said. But his voice was weaker now, uncertain. "I confess my sins before God and ask for forgiveness. Not for myself, but for these children who never had a chance to confess theirs." The light grew brighter. The creature's walls began to crack and peel away like old paint. Through the gaps, I could see the real world outside. The actual street. The real cathedral. "Confession only works on consecrated ground," the creature hissed. "Every place becomes consecrated when you speak the truth before God." The children in the circle began to move. Not controlled movement this time. Real movement. They turned their heads to look at me, and their eyes were clear and aware. "Thank you," they whispered. And this time, they sounded like themselves. The tubes fell away from their mouths. The creature screamed as its food source was cut off. The walls around us crumbled, revealing the inside of the real cathedral. Cardinal Toretti lay on the floor near the altar. The real cardinal. He was unconscious but breathing. Beside him, Lucia Toretti's body was finally, truly dead. Just an empty shell that the creature had been using as a puppet. The 7 children stood up and walked toward the cathedral doors. As they passed me, each one touched my hand. "Rule 6, the smallest girl said. "What?" "There is a Rule 6. When all else fails, tell the truth." They walked out into the dawn light and disappeared. Not taken, not consumed. Simply free to go where children go when their time on earth is finished. I knelt beside Cardinal Toretti and checked his pulse. Strong and steady. He would survive. My phone rang. This time it was a number I recognized. Father Kellner from Vatican City. "Agent Santangelo, please report. Target eliminated. 7 children recovered. 1 civilian injured but stable." "Understood. Return to base for debriefing." I looked around the cathedral one more time. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, painting rainbow patterns on the floor. Everything looked normal, peaceful, holy. But I knew the truth now. The Department of Sacred Mysteries was real. Our mission was real. But so were the things we hunted. And sometimes, the line between hunter and prey was thinner than we wanted to admit. I walked outside and got in my car. The blessed bullets felt cool in my pocket now. Normal temperature. The emergency was over. But as I drove back toward the airport, I kept thinking about Rule 6, the rule that was not officially written down anywhere, the rule that only the children had known. When all else fails, tell the truth. I wondered how many other unofficial rules existed, how many other techniques the Vatican had not taught me, how many other ways to fight monsters that did not involve blessed bullets and white phosphorus. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. Rule 7. Never trust a child who knows too much. I nearly crashed the car pulling over to check the message. But when I looked at the screen, it was blank. No messages, no missed calls. Just my imagination, probably. The stress of the assignment, the relief of survival. But as I merged back onto the highway, I could not shake the feeling that something was still watching me. Something that had learned my face during those moments in the creature's belly. Something that remembered Rule 4 was broken. I checked my rearview mirror. Empty road behind me. Nothing but morning traffic and school buses carrying children to their classes. Normal children with normal faces, laughing and talking and living their normal lives. At least, I hoped they were normal. Rule 8, I thought to myself. Never assume the job is finished just because the target is dead. I had a feeling I would be learning many more unofficial rules in the years to come. The radio crackled to life with a call for Agent Santangelo. New assignment, new target, new city. I answered the call and took down the details. Father Kellner's voice was calm and professional as he briefed me on reports of a possessed doll in a toy store in Pittsburgh. Routine assignment, standard procedure. Rules 1 through 5 would apply. But I made a mental note to remember Rule 6 and Rule 7, and whatever other rules I might discover along the way. The Vatican's Department of Sacred Mysteries had trained me to hunt monsters, but the monsters had taught me something equally valuable. Sometimes the truth was the most powerful weapon of all. I drove toward my next assignment, ready to learn whatever new rules awaited me in Pittsburgh, ready to discover what other secrets the department had not shared with its agents, ready to confess whatever sins I might commit in service of God's work. The blessed bullets in my pocket felt warm again. A new target was waiting. And somewhere in the back of my mind, 7 children's voices whispered in unison, Rule 9, never forget us. I would not forget. That was a promise I could keep. The highway stretched ahead, leading to Pittsburgh and whatever horrors waited there. But for the first time in 8 years, I was not afraid. I had learned to tell the truth. And the truth, as it turned out, was more powerful than any monster.